Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our October Raleigh Transit Authority meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 3:35 p.m. Today, again, October 8th. I'm going to start by reading a brief statement from the governor about why we're meeting virtually. So, of course, because of COVID-19, the governor has issued executive orders requiring individuals to remain in their homes except for certain activities, closing many businesses to the public and prohibiting any gatherings which do not comply with these terms. Because of the risks to the public that would arise from continued in-person meetings pursuant to NCGS 166A-19.24, the city is converting Raleigh Transit Authority meetings to a remote electric format for the duration of the state of the emergency. All votes will be counted by roll call, and we will do our, one moment. I am looking for our roster. Hold on. There it is. So I'll do a quick roll call, and if everybody who is present can just announce, also, of course, using our cameras. And if you have any questions that you want to ask during the meeting, just make sure that you announce yourself before you ask your question. All right, Nathan Spencer.
Here.
Karen Ridge.
Here.
Michael Stevenson. Christopher Jones. Daniel Coleman.
Here.
Morris Cook. Brian Burnett. Joshua Gill.
Here.
Sarah Prado. Robert Owens. And I, of course, myself am here, and it looks like we do have quorum, I believe.
Morris Cook, Madam Chair, I'm here. Audio.
Oh, hello, Morris. How are you?
All right.
All right. So it looks like we are good to go. I'll go ahead and open up the agenda, so we can go ahead and get started. Now, you said that it's in a link. Is that correct? I thought I already opened the link.
It's on the screen.
Okay, there it is. Are there any additions to or revisions for the agenda?
Madam Chair, this is David Eatman, Transportation City of Raleigh. I did have one item that I would like to add at information if I could. I wanted to give a quick review of board docs potentially, just to talk about that new platform that we're going to be trying to transition to over the next couple of months. We certainly want to make sure that we're very careful as we do that, because we don't want to put anything in a format that's not accessible by everyone. So anyway, I was just going to talk about that briefly, but that can be a quick information item at the end of the agenda.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and add that to the end of the agenda right after, it looks like, the marketing committee information. Is that okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Is there anything else? Do we have any
Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I love the way you look coming back from that vacation you had in Chicago.
Thank you very much. I really needed the vacation, so I appreciate that. Apparently, I was wearing it. Do we have any public comments?
Hi, it's Andrea Epstein. We did not receive any public comments.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. I apologize for that. And all right, so we'll jump right into it. The first item is the Raleigh Transit Authority name change. David?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. As for those that were at the last meeting, you may recall that we did bring forward the Raleigh Transit Authority name change. This request had come out of the marketing committee, actually back pre-COVID. And so at that time, it was determined decided not to move forward, at least at the last meeting. So we did bring that item back in September. So again, it was tabled. It was at the marketing committee. We did have some limited participation at the marketing committee, but it was expressed, and since the board did ask that to go back to the marketing committee and back to the committee of the whole in October, I did put this on here as a staff item. Ms. Karen Range is obviously the chair of the marketing committee, and so, Madam Chair, you would need to recognize her, but I'm not sure if Ms. Range has anything to add.
Karen, do you have anything extra to add?
Sure. This is Karen Renge, and we have discussed this opportunity to bring our transit authority name in alignment with the name of our bus service, which is Go Raleigh, so that we would have the same name as the service that we provide. And the marketing committee in the past has recommended it, and we continue to recommend it, and that we would make a recommendation to the city council to change our name. The main reason, or the main reasons to do so would be, as I said, so that our name reflects the name of our service, and also to help people who are trying to find us and provide public comment, et cetera. They're more able to find where we are on our city's website, since we would have the same name as Go Raleigh. And then also to reduce confusion with the other RTA in the region, which is called the Regional Transportation Alliance, and often there is confusion between the two. So I would recommend a vote for this. Thanks.
So I move that we change the name of RTA to Go Raleigh Transit Authority.
My second.
All right, it has been moved and properly seconded.
I'm sorry, that was Daniel Coleman. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Daniel. So it's been motioned by Daniel Coleman and seconded by Joshua. Gil, was that you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so it's been moved and properly seconded. So I'll go ahead and read through our names as soon as I find out where I put the list and all these things on my computer. There it is. All right. Nathan Spencer.
I vote aye.
Karen.
I vote aye.
Daniel.
I vote aye.
Morris.
Aye.
Joshua.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye. Tallulah Pay. I vote aye as well. So it's been motion passes.
Madam Chair, we do have Mr. Robert Owens on as well.
Is he there? I thought I didn't hear him when we did the roll call.
He came on right after.
Okay, Robert Owens. Well, it's been passed. So to change our name to the Go Raleigh Transit Authority. Yay, we've been working on that for some time. We should be very happy with ourselves. All right, so the next item on the agenda are our committee reports, starting with the route committee. With Nathan.
Good afternoon, Chair. Madam Chair, I wanted to give a quick synopsis of the route committee. Earlier this week, we went through a performance check on the Northwest package, the routes that we endorsed and got started earlier in 2019. The numbers look like they're not, those routes are not performing great, and staff is looking at some of the reasons why, and we'll be coming back to route committee on that. One thing they did notice is that it provides in a major avenue for essential workers. So it's certainly a needed set of routes. We also discussed BRT on the southern corridor to Garner, the northern section of that. Staff was asking for an endorsement, and I believe that they'll be asking for an endorsement at this meeting as well. We had asked at the last meeting to have it go back to route committee to explore why in particular it was South Wilmington versus South Saunders. Staff did an amazing job of providing some details on that. I sent a note to the board as a whole, but I'll let for our viewers at home, I'll let them know that it's largely in part because of the amount of ridership that's available on there, the ability for us not to have to impact residents and small businesses as much, whereas South Saunders would require a fair amount of impact in right-of-way, as well as significant increase in costs for South Saunders, and the ability for us to actually be able to make a route that actually gets people there faster. I will say that I asked for the route to be approved based on a couple different factors that I believe we should continue to City Council. Those being that that the city have the appropriate department track displacements if there are any, and how and keep track of the number of them. That the city put in place policies and actions to keep people in their homes and in the neighborhood. And finally, to engage directly with the renters and homeowners along the route to tie the specific policies that are going to help them to the specific community that's currently living there, not just anything blanket. So I am asking that get tied to it. Our last point that we discussed at the meeting was the enhanced transfer points, which are going to be brought up at the next meeting as well. But there's we are moving forward to look at continuing to do some enhanced transfer points as is in the Wake Transit Plan.
So Nathan,
yeah, go ahead.
Are you finished?
Yes.
So the last piece you talked about is attachment B, attachment transit propensity analysis. Is that the one that's dealing with the transfer? Which one of the documents deals with that last issue you were talking about?
I think it's, yes, transit. No. I don't know, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
Let me take a look and just for a second. Nope, that's ridership data. I don't believe that there's an attachment based on the enhanced transfer centers. Okay. I will say that this will probably be brought up, as I said, it will be brought up at the next route committee meeting for more in-depth conversation. We just really didn't have the time.
Protocol. This is Daniel Coleman, and I just want to say that Southern Corridor has been on the books now for about 6 years, and quite frankly, a lot of us lobbied very hard to get the route that you have supported in your presentation adopted prior to the Newbern Avenue corridor because of the lack of displacement and other key factors, and it just seemed to be more of a less political maneuver. So I everything that you talked about, we were talking about 6 years ago, and I think is great.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Now, Mr. Eatman, do we need do you need an endorsement of this route? You do. Okay. So
Sir, we are the action items are today under the committees.
Okay.
So we will be requesting that they be brought forward as action items. The only action item under the route committee for today is the Southern Corridor alignment. Thank you.
So I'd like to, Daniel Coleman, I'd like to move that we approve the RTA route committee, Wake BRT Southern Corridor, as presented in the agenda.
Before we jump to voting and making a motion, is there a way that we can just have it on the screen since this is being broadcast? People can know which route we're referring to.
Madam Chair, we do have backup materials for that. And so we can provide as little or as much information as you like, but I think specifically you just want the corridor alignments in question. So Andrea, if you could bring up the southern BRT and just take it to the corridor. It looks like that's slide 6 or 7.
Just so it can be there while we're voting on it.
That's it right there.
Yeah, that might be a better map right here. That's great. Thank you.
And so just to be clear, we're looking at one of the Wilmington Street ones, correct?
Yes, we're talking. Oh,
We're
sorry.
looking at all of them.
Above the dashed line. My apologies.
Is there a specific alternative that we're voting on today? Like, which one is the one? I know it's the Wilmington.
So we're
Excuse me, point of clarity. The map that you're looking at now is not the map that's attached to the support document in the board docs document.
Can we
You
have,
know, you're not showing the green line. You're only showing the whatever E is and whatever Wilmington Street, and E is South Saunders Street. But there's a green line. It's called the F, and F is the alignment of E and F. Shows the realignment of South Saunders Street. So, but it's not really showing any clarity.
since we have the ones in our docs, can we pull up? Is there a way that I'm sorry for this, but just so we can all see and be on the same page, is there a way we just pull up what's in the docs so we can then make the motion so we can see what we're voting, just so we can see the exact space we're voting on?
Josh, do you see it? Yeah, on your when you look.
I do not.
at the docs?
Oh, on the board docs? Yeah, let me click through it.
Yeah, it's the first backup. It's the backup for the board doc item.
But also, to Lula Pay's point, this is Karen Ringe speaking. Are we voting on number 5 or 6, or just 5 and 6 as possibilities?
I can certainly have Mr. Patel run through the options very quickly. We are only choosing the northern half today. That would take the options for the corridor from 6 to 2.
Okay, so
The southern piece, we will actually put in project development, and we can make that decision at a later date. But this would allow us to put it in the federal pipeline with just 2 options.
okay, so we're just recommending, it looks like from the list, options 5 and 6, because the northern part of that section is just the Wilmington section.
Right. That's the point that I was recommending, was that we adopt the Wilmington Street, which would be G and H, as it relates to the map that's now on the screen above Karen's face.
Well, in this case, we'd only be talking about G, Danny. This is Nathan Spencer, because the piece where it crosses is the southern half, which we still needs to be studied and also is subject to garner City Council's interest as well, because it's not in Raleigh.
Okay, Daniel, again, doesn't change my recommendation that we approve section G in this report.
This is Karen Ringe, I second that.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. I'm going to go through the roster so that we can go ahead and do the vote.
Madam Chair, are we attaching those amendments to the motion to encourage
Which amendments?
the comment that I mentioned putting forward to track displacements
Oh, yes, definitely.
and policies and engage? Okay.
Do you want to go ahead and make the motion full out?
Sure.
I'd like to make the motion that we adopt G with tracking the displacements and any other issues that will have a social economic impact on the adjoining property owners and property residents.
All right, so that's the motion. Do we need to second it again, or are we good to go?
I second it, Karen Ringe.
All right, thank you, Karen. All right, so we'll go ahead with the vote. Nathan Spencer,
I vote aye.
Karen Renge,
Aye.
Daniel Coleman,
Aye.
Morris Cook,
Aye.
Joshua Gill,
I vote aye.
Robert Owens, Tallulah Mokaye, I vote aye as well. So it's been moved and properly passed that we recommend the G option while still doing our due diligence to track displacement and any other social, economic, and economic impact on residents, businesses, or in general. Good to go? All right, next item on the agenda will come from the Finance Committee, the Finance and Policy Committee.
All right. Since Michael Stevenson wasn't here, I helped run that meeting. I'll give my reports, and if I miss anything, David will fill in. So first, we talked about the contract. On the agenda item, it's called WSP BRT contract. Essentially, it's for how they're going to lay out the streets, both on the southern BRT corridor and the western BRT corridor. That like design the streets and design the stops, etc. That package for the new Burn corridor was approximately $4 million. For the combined southern and western corridors, it's approximately $11 million, with $4 million and some change on the southern and $6 million and some change on the western corridor. Those both being slightly longer, well, the western being quite a bit longer and the southern being slightly longer. So it sounded about right. So we voted to approve that and bring it to the board for a vote today. Next, we discussed the paratransit manual. We have not yet voted to approve it. We're just looking at it. We're taking the next month to look at it, but because it is a lengthy document, we're bringing it to the board now to start looking at it for the vote next month. That will be in board docs. It's very lengthy and will require some time to look through. Then we had the Go Raleigh fixed route rider survey. Morgan presented that, and I requested that she bring that presentation to the full board as well, because it is good information and essentially a referendum on what we as a board do, as well as Go Triangle. Then we had some reports from Siobhan Tucker on the Wake Transit Plan Quarter 2 amendments. That I might have to bring David in. Essentially, they were asking us to approve $50,000 in one-time funding contract for assistance with critical real estate transactions that are needed to keep existing and future projects on schedule, and then $12,500 for a senior transit planner. Yeah, a senior transit planner, with 80% of that funding is already in place from the budgeted FTA Section 5303 funding. We're just providing that 20% extra in the form of $12,500, and we voted to approve that and bring that to the board for a vote, which we will also do. Hold on, let me go back to the agenda. And then we went over the financials for August. The biggest takeaway we had from that was understanding that about 15% of the income during COVID through farebox revenues is gone. And then we're also going to have some loss of revenue based on loss of sales tax, and just monitoring that as it affects our operations going forward. And we're going to hear more from that as we get more information from the finance department going forward. All right, David, did I miss anything? Amendment anything?
No, you did a great job, and certainly we appreciate you. You did a great job at the meeting as well. For taking charge of that. So thank you for your efforts chairing the Finance and Policy Committee. I would just reiterate what you said. So we did have two action items, one being the WSP BRT contract that is for 30% design of the Southern Corridor and Western Corridors. So we would ask the board's consideration on that. And then the two quarter two amendments that you described, we would also like consideration of those 2 items. But thank you again very much.
My pleasure.
Daniel, I move that we approve the 2 motions that David just talked about. And I know you may not understand, but we're going to have someone from finance come to our next finance committee meeting so we can start tracking finance a little closer than we have in the past.
Before we vote on this, it's Karen Ringe. I have a question about the 30% design contract for WSP. When we're at this stage of decision making and budgeting, are we receiving multiple proposals for that 30% design, and is the one that was selected, is it the least expensive? Or I'm just curious how competitive WSP is being with other transportation consulting firms, because it's lots of money.
Yeah, exactly. So we did let the 30% design for all 4 corridors as a single package. So that just takes it to 30%. Then we're releasing the full design, for example, HNTB's contract for New Bern Avenue at that point. So WSP is slated to do the initial 30% for all 4 corridors that we currently have in the pipeline. Again, once each of those reaches 30%, we go back out for additional solicitations for full design of the corridors. So that would be 4 different solicitations for the final designs. I would say that we've worked with the towns of Garner, Cary, as well as our engineering services department to review the price proposals as we've developed these scopes of work and negotiated the prices. When you go out for these engineering services, we can't do a low bid. That's not a low bid process. That's a qualifications-based process. And then we negotiate pricing for each individual piece of work during the phases of the project. So we have had, it hasn't just been transit staff by any stretch of the imagination. This has been a large effort by multiple parties as we've developed these scopes and final pricing. Hopefully that addressed your questions there, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, I've always just wondered, the consultants are extremely expensive, and I'm not saying we don't need them. Of course, we do need qualified people to make sure we're going to build a good product. I just sort of look at it as what we're spending on that versus what we're spending on, say, putting money into things like affordable housing along the corridor and stuff. And so we got to keep the numbers. We got to keep it all in perspective. So.
We do have a finite budget that we have to stay within, so our goal is certainly to do that to the best of our ability.
Okay, thank you.
May I comment on Karen's comment? What Karen, as I understand, Karen is saying is that going into the first half of 21 and probably the whole budget cycle of 22, that the general public is going to start looking at our economies of scale, so to speak. Am I correct with you, Karen, that there are a lot of needs that are going to become more obvious to us further along, over the next 18 to 20, 36 months? And I think the point is, can we stand the intense scrutiny that may come 12 months, 18 months out, in the way that we have a handle on the expenses as it relates to this BRT project currently? And, I share her concerns, but I know that nobody wants to get in the way of this thing. But I support her concerns, and I think that we have to be mindful of it. And even though we're not being called on the carpet now, I think 12, 18 months down the road, we will find ourselves in a position of having to defend what we have done now.
So please announce yourself, Mr. Coleman.
Daniel Coleman.
Thank you.
This is Lupe. I have a question. I agree with both Daniel and Karen. And I have a question that may be outside of our space, but I know that we have land, and that's some of what we were talking about for the western corridor, I believe, the one that we were just speaking about. Is there any way that we could use some of the land that we own that we're using for transit to also use it for affordable housing and transit? Can it be a multi-use space?
I would say that the city is looking at opportunities to maximize affordability and affordable units in any way we can. I think it's a little too early to say because you certainly don't buy more right of way than you need. So it's not like we have a lot of extra property, but certainly if there's any parcels that would promote themselves for some type of development or residential development, I think those are options as we move forward. Certainly that's what we've been working on as we've been working with the planning department and housing and neighborhoods on a number of strategies to really increase affordability, as well as make sure that existing residents as well as business owners have the opportunities that that the improvements will bring as well. So I guess the short answer is yes. I would say that it's not as easy as just saying we've got this property and we can put what we want on it by any stretch of the imagination. But certainly the intent is there through development of policy and other objectives, to make that happen. Again, land ownership is the biggest thing of that. And when we buy corridors or right of way, we just don't buy a lot extra. Generally, sometimes we'll have to buy a parcel, and the parcel is a little bit more than what is needed, but it's an easier purchase because you don't want to leave a landowner with a little teeny remnant that's not usable per se. So certainly, we're looking for opportunities, put it that way. And if they present themselves, we own the land, then it's much easier than if we don't. That's for sure.
Is there any land like that, like along what we were discussing the last meeting? That some of the space that we were trying to decide which route we were taking, and that we were asking the question of, does one route have land that we already own versus the other? And we were saying that the route that we were taking was the route that had land on it that we own. Are you saying there's not enough land in those spaces that as we build maybe transit hubs that we can't build something like on top of it? Like how we built Moore Square, was there a possibility that we could have built something else there in addition to it?
I would say that since we haven't really entered the 30% design yet, I don't know what the ultimate cross-section would be of our right-of-way. We should have plenty of room with what we have. The question is how much is left over and then what can be done with that? I think as we get into the early design, that we can bring back something that might provide, this is an opportunity, or this area would be an opportunity. One thing about the Western Corridor is there is, certainly opportunity for that development that we just discussed. It's just who owns it and what policies are in place to ensure that that's what actually occurs. So
anything up New Bern Avenue, since that's the first corridor that we're going up, that we have space to do something around there, because of course that's been my concern. It's been the general concern. From a community perspective of what's going to happen when we, gentrification and when we push the bus route up New Bern. Is there space that we can do some of that as we go into planning and development? We'll be there sooner at that space. Is there something we can do up New Bern Avenue?
So we don't really own any additional right-of-way in New Bern because we're wholly within right-of-way with that project. But we can bring back information on projects which we think will provide affordability as well. So that's something that if you would like to refer that to committee, we can bring back. I wouldn't say that we could do that at a single meeting because things are going to grow and progress over time. But we can actually, if you want to put that in a committee, we can bring back periodic reports on how things are progressing.
Which committee would that be? Would that be route?
I would think route or finance and policy.
This is Karen Range. I just wanted to add in, it's my understanding, having followed this for several years, that the transit committee, the TPAC that's been working on this whole BRT project, has a committee that's looking at, and it involves the county folks as well as municipal folks, And they have been looking at potential opportunities for affordable housing along.
Not anymore.
Is it happening anymore?
They disbanded that. This is Nathan Spencer. Sorry.
That's very disheartening to hear.
Well, they finished their work, I should say. There is a report. It's pretty lengthy out there. I'm happy to send it to you. But yeah, no.
So did they create a report of opportunities for affordable housing along the BRT corridors?
There is a report on that. They just finished. Yeah, they finished it midway through last year. I can send it to the board.
Please.
Daniel Coleman, I want to comment on this so we don't get into a hole here and get out of sync with council. And you all know I've been doing this affordable stuff for 40 years now. We have to realize that the median income indicates 50% of the people are above it, 50% are below it. And by definition, especially with this council, median income is the definition of the missing middle. So when we're talking about affordable housing, we have to come to grips with the idea that currently affordable housing is the numbers that gravitate around the median income, which now I think is somewhere between 90 and 100 or 80 and 100 or something like that. So we have to keep that in mind, because a lot of what's going on now with this council is geared toward the missing middle. And it's so important that we realize that, so we don't get into being in conflict with them, but at the same time understand what their agenda is the missing middle, which is the median income itself, not 80% of the median, 40% of the median, 50% per se. It is the median income. And you'll hear that throughout. There are conversations, deliberations on zoning cases and stuff like that. And I'm just saying that's where we are in the evolution of affordability in this municipality. Thank you.
There's also the affordable housing bond on the ballot.
Yes. So this is Nathan Spencer. There's an affordable housing bond on the ballot, but there's also, I believe that the Wake Transit Plan funding cannot be used for anything other than transit. I think it was very narrow when it was passed on that regard. Correct me if I'm wrong, David, but I believe that we're stuck within sort of having to use our own funds or bond funds if we're going to ask for any housing.
That is correct.
But there's direction to, bring actors together, which I believe has been happening, but it would certainly, given this COVID and everything being virtual, I have to admit, I certainly feel disconnected from this whole process. I feel like, it's just harder to know what's going on. And I would love to have an update on potential opportunities that the city is looking at, because obviously our entire Go Raleigh Transit Authority Board has been very supportive of this.
So Beatman Transit here with the City of Raleigh. I did see a survey come out today from the Planning Department asking for input on the scope of work for station area planning on New Bern Avenue. And so that really, is looking for types of responses that you're giving today. The importance of affordability and other things, which is also reflected in the equitable development around transit report that's out. But we'll be happy to distribute that survey, as well as provide additional information on the EDAT report and other efforts by the city. Just let us know. We'll be happy to bring that forward.
Yes. Well, Tulupe, I'm okay. I please do bring it forward. Is there also a way, because all of these pieces work together, that we can maybe have somebody from planning at our meeting so we can all kind of, I know that the survey is out, but from our perspective with, some of the work that we put in on this end around this, is there a possibility that we can have like a joint meeting or have them come present so that we can share some of our ideas with them and also know what's going on from them directly?
That'd be great. We can arrange something, most definitely.
Thank you. Sarah, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am well. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. I actually was just going to say that I might need to be excused early. I have to take care of my daughter because our nanny is about to head out.
Oh, completely understand. I know that council was explaining how to excuse ourselves. So before you go, just let me know via chat or something if you don't want to chime in. And then I'll make sure that your excuses were being recorded.
Oh, gotcha.
So you
Okay.
know that you
Perfect. Well, I
dropped.
know that for next time.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
And
All
then
right.
just know
Thank you.
if you dropped or come in.
Okay.
Daniel here. Do we have a motion before the body at this particular time?
I
Is there
think
a
you have to
motion to support this issue, those two issues, the southern western corridor and whatever the other issue was?
Yes,
No,
you made a motion for that. You made a motion for that. The question now is, do we amend the motion to include some of this other stuff that we had in discussion? So I think that before we, this is the discussion piece of the motion, basically.
Okay, I got you. So what do you think, maybe this, Daniel here, Madam Chair, do you think this needs to go back to the committee that brought it to the board for the additional comments that we have made here today, and let them put it in there so that we can fashion a motion that will be consistent with their recommendation coming out of that committee?
I do agree, but let's ask somebody from the committee. What do you all think?
Well, this is Karen Renge. I'm not on the committee, but I think I was the one that brought up the question because I thought the motion was about approving WSP's 30% design allotment of funds. And I wasn't really, I don't know that my questions about the affordable housing piece are relevant to that, because that's not what the 30% design is about. But I've certainly heard today, and to Lulupe, I thought you just said that we ought to have some kind of either joint meeting with planning or a report on where they are, like maybe a summary on the report that came out of TPAC that Nathan was talking about. I don't know that that's part of the motion, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so
Daniel again, Jason, Jason, you chaired the meeting. What was your counsel on this matter?
Joshua.
No, not Josh. I'm sorry. Please excuse me.
I would like to ask the planning staff how much of the or how much of that 30% design affects anything beyond the actual street, that the street and the right of way itself for the BRT. Does it go on to, does the WSP or the 30% design have anything to do with transit-oriented development around the line, or is that out of the scope of what the 30% design is?
Yeah, that's out of the scope of, this is David Eatman, Transit with City of Raleigh. Mr. Gill, that is out of the scope of the WSP contract for this. This is specifically for the 30% design of the southern corridor as well as the western corridor.
What opportunities would we have in the future to bring language like this into, like at what point in the design can we bring language about transit or about the equitable and affordable housing around the BRT?
There's a number of existing initiatives already underway with the City of Raleigh regarding everything from transit overlay districts to station area planning. I think this might just be a good opportunity for us to team with our partners in planning and develop kind of a toolkit of items that are either in existence or currently under development through planning and also council. So we'll be happy to put that list together, and then we can take that to a committee of this body's choosing, and then we can determine which items would that committee as well as the RTA would like a deeper dive on. Certainly, I think the first step is just to kind of show the broad field of things that are happening, and then we can go from there.
This is
Can I make a recommendation then? And maybe we have Daniel Coleman here, that we have a committee of the whole, so to speak, with the planning department, like a work session, so we could, because they're overlapping issues here that affect finance, planning throughout the whole gamut of what our responsibilities. So maybe we can not hold the issue up today, but to Joshua's question, let's create that the environment where we can all sit down and talk to people in planning, whatever we need, so we have a better understanding going forward when we get into the 60% stuff.
If it's possible, before we get to a committee of the whole meeting and talking about what the staff has put together with planning, if it's possible to have even as route or finance or whomever meet to help to do that scope, because I'm concerned that not that we have any problem with staff putting that together, but I think that it might help if we as the body have some say into how much we're really looking at biting off of that scope.
Sounds good to me.
I'm sorry, to Lulape, I think that it would probably be best, since we have these questions and we do want to meet around it, that we hold off on voting on it today and bring it to a committee so that we have a full vote with our full confidence, and versus a in the future move like this type of situation. What do you all think?
I think, sorry, go ahead.
Well, this is Karen. I mean, David Eatman just told us that the scope is really just about the designing of the corridor. And that really wasn't.
Oh, no, I'm not talking, I apologize. This is Nathan. I'm not talking about the contract for 30%.
Yeah, I don't think we should hold that up.
I think that what we're talking about is being able to influence the overall piece of what we're looking for. And later, I think we could definitely add an amendment to their contract if we need to and say, hey, you need to include these things, but we might not need to if we can get the city to actually pay attention to some of that already.
I mean, I would just really like to have a report and a conversation with the planning staff to find out what is the city doing? What is the city council doing right now to marry affordable housing along the BRT corridors? It's certainly been recognized in all the public surveys, and I think it would benefit our board just to get an update and to have that conversation so we're more informed. I'd like to see it at the full board because I think we'd all like to know what's going on. But
I definitely agree, especially since housing affects our ridership. And we don't want to be, like I said, dormant or not be engaged on issues that down the line, we're moving out our ridership in hopes of replacing them with other riders. And that's a guarantee versus a hope. So I think that we have a serious interest when it comes to planning and housing and things of that nature. So I think us all having a meeting with the whole board and planning would be great. I think that Danny had a great idea of us possibly having a work session. I think that would be great, but I thought that we were voting on two issues right now, unless I'm confused.
The second item was David Eatman, Transit City of Raleigh. The second item was Wake Transit Plan Quarter 2 amendments. That was the $50,000 for real estate services and the $12,500 for an additional senior planner support.
Okay. So would you all like to, I think that we should have a work session with planning, and not just the presentation, but actually have an opportunity for them to not just meet with one committee, but the board as a whole. I know we all have questions. Is that possible that we can plan something of that nature?
Daniel Coleman, call to order. I think my motion has died for lack of second. So maybe we're in a mute issue now because there's no motion before the body.
Okay, well, let's remake the motion and then kind of clean up the rest of what we're going to do with planning.
Well, my motion was to approve the BRT Southern and Western Amendment and the WTPQT amendments. That was the motion before the floor, but it never got a second. So.
A second.
Okay. So now it has a second.
All right, so it's been a motion made by Daniel Coleman, seconded by Joshua Gill. Do we have any discussion around this motion before we make the vote? All right. Nathan Spencer?
I vote aye.
Karen Renge?
aye.
Daniel Coleman?
Aye.
Morris Cook?
Aye.
Joshua Gill?
Aye.
And we don't call the alternates because they don't get to vote on this. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that because I called Robert last time, but I think I made a mistake on that. Talulupe Omokaye, aye. So the move has been passed.
Okay.
Okay, so when can we plan a work session when can we schedule a work session with planning?
Daniel Coleman here. I think of, excuse me, David, but I think we need to incorporate Nathan's idea of putting a scope together for staff so we're not having a meeting that doesn't give us the results that we want. So I would like to support what your idea is and Nathan's idea if we can figure out how to word it before the group. And number one. Number two, can I go to the restroom, please?
Yes, please, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think we're voting on anything while you're gone. Please mute your camera. All right. All right. So I think that if we should have a scope. I think that maybe the scope would route or policy like to work on the scope. Or could it be like a joint situation where somebody from route and somebody from policy works together, brings the scope back to us in our next meeting? And then we can both move forward with planning the planning session post that, knowing what direction and our objectives for it.
Josh, this is Nathan. Do you want to do a phone call maybe in the next week or so where we can put together just over the phone some ideas for a scope and then bring that forward?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right, perfect. Thank you, guys. And then we'll move forward after the scope is done with planning. So with planning the work session, so we know our direction. Thank you all. All right, so the next item on the agenda is, when I find the agenda that I had out, I have too many things open. All right, it is marketing committee with Karen. Karen, before we jump into it, I did get a chance to see, I saw one of our new bus shelters up Pool Road that we have worked on for literally ever. And we finally have one. I saw it on, where is it? Pool Road, right past Sunnybrook.
That is correct.
You mean one of the red bus shelters?
One of the red bus shelters. It looks really nice. I meant to take a picture of it.
I didn't know.
Nice. Has a nice trash can next to it.
I didn't know they were going up, David. How many have been put up?
I know that one has, and we have about 4 or 5 others also slated to go up here very shortly. I'm not sure if Mr. Walker is around or if he's a presenter or if he can speak or not. And it may not be necessary, but we do have at least 4 or 5 other sites ready to go.
Oh, wow. Well, does Michael Stevenson know? Because he'll want to know.
It looks really, really nice. I actually am going to pass it on my way home from my office today. So I will take a picture and send it out to everybody when I get to the house. It's really nice.
Wow. What are you talking about, Daniel? What are you talking about, Madam Chair?
We have one of our new bus shelters, the red bus shelters from the art exhibit that we did, where people sent in their different people designed bus shelters, and they were in front of the CAM. And we picked one years ago. You might forget it because it was a long time ago, and then City Council kind of nixed it, and then so now we have a few, and one of them is on Pool Road right after Sunnybrook.
Yes, it is. I see it every day, and I am trying my best to grow to love it.
I like it. It's very fashionable. All right, Karen, on to you. Sorry about that, but I just wanted to know they were out there.
I hear you, Danny. Okay, so at the marketing committee meeting last Thursday, we were low in attendance, so I really encourage everyone who's on the committee to please attend next month. Mostly because there's lots of great information. I'm going to start actually with we had an update on the Bus Rapid Transit branding survey from Cherie Gibson, who's with HNTB, who's overseeing that out. Actually, she's overseeing all of the public engagement around BRT. In a nutshell, hopefully you all saw a survey that went out. You could have had an opportunity to fill it in. They sent out 2 surveys to stakeholders and to the public, and the survey closed on the 27th of September, and they had over 500 responses. And we are going to get an update on actually what kind of came out of that response, out of the survey at our November meeting. But I can tell you right now that basically what they were hearing from people about the brand for bus rapid transit is people really want something bold and inviting and informative and understandable about what BRT is all about. So they're going to, the consultants will take the survey results and then create 3 versions of potential brands, and then they will send those back out for input, and we will be among those who will get to have input on the 3 choices. So I made sure that we'd have input. Also on bus, yeah.
I may have missed Daniel speaking. What is Commute Smart and what is Go Smart?
Well, I'm going to get to that later in the agenda.
Oh.
That's something different.
I thought you had already gone through because of the sequence on the agenda.
No, just because we were talking about BRT, I thought I would just stay on the BRT train.
I got you.
So also on BRT, I just want everyone to know that the public engagement teams from HNTB and WSP and this other local firm, whose name I'm forgetting, they are all trying to coordinate their efforts for community outreach because they're doing an integrated public engagement approach, which only makes sense because we've got 4 corridors and they're all in different stages. And so they are, and I've continued to remind them that our board would very much like to see a list of who they're engaging. I mean, certainly they're using multiple ways to try to engage the community, and it's hard right now because of COVID. But we really particularly want to know the communities of faith that they're reaching out to, and African-American churches. So they told us that they're going to have more information on that at our November meeting. So stay tuned. Now, the other 3 other things that were on the agenda, Commute Smart Raleigh and Go Smart. These, first of all, Commute Smart is an effort across the country to encourage people to reduce how they get around by cars or trucks, to reduce our vehicle miles and to improve our air quality. And so our staff, in particular, Jana Victor, continues to work with employers and the city and state employees to encourage people to get around some other way besides being a single occupancy vehicle. So basically, it was just an update on that they're continuing to work hard, and things have changed a little bit because of COVID, because people just aren't driving to their offices anymore. So actually, that does mean, fortunately, that our air quality is probably going to be improving, at least for now. Now, and so that's Commute Smart. And then Raleigh has a specific campaign called Go Smart, which is focused not on commuters, but just on the general public and how we get around. And a similar notion that how can we get around besides cars? So obviously taking the bus and letting people know about how to take the bus, carpooling, van pooling, walking, and now of course we have scooters and bicycles. And this year in 2020, the staff led by Ann Galam with our Go Raleigh staff led an effort with a targeted group of downtown residents this year. They reached out to 3,500 households and it got 240 to agree to participate in this effort to learn more about ways to get around. And they had pretty positive results. The staff handed out toolkits and a lot of information, but and the information they sent out was via email and newsletters and mailers. However, again, because of COVID, normally they would do a lot of events like let's take people on the bus and show them how to use the bus. That didn't happen. So I'm not sure if they're going to continue this in the future just because of funding, but they've gotten positive results. They did it last year with folks. They targeted a different neighborhood, I think around Crabtree Mall in that area. So But in the meantime, one of the things they're trying to do is see how they can work with apartment buildings, particularly since we're getting more and more apartment buildings built in the city, to work with apartments as ways to distribute information about Go Raleigh and, again, other non-driving modes, single vehicle modes. Yes.
Daniel, do each one of these groups get a different pot of money from us, from the city? How do they get funded?
Yeah. Well, we're paying city staff to do them. And I think we get some federal money, at least for the Commute Smart. And for the Go Smart campaign, David, was that more than city money? I think we got a grant for that.
Yeah, so we do receive congestion mitigation and air quality funding from Triangle J Council of Governments, which really distributes funds from North Carolina Department of Transportation. And that particular program for our outreach and our activities is a 50-50 match. So it's 50% CMAQ funds and 50% city funds.
So can't we just combine them and just say we've got a smart, call the thing smart and stuff them both in the same envelope, so to speak? I mean, will we save any money doing that?
Out of the information that that Ms. Renge provided, one is an activity or really a strategy, and the TDM program is the actual funded program that executes all of the strategies.
And one is more about commuting to work, and one is about, whether you're going to the grocery store or the doctor. But I see your point, Danny. It seems they're very similar. And I think that the staff is probably always looking for ways they can overlap. But the target audience, one is residential and one's more employer-based.
Okay, thank you.
So, then the last thing I have to report is we have a new system being installed on our buses. Right now it's been installed on one bus to assist mobility riders, people who use wheelchairs on our buses. As you may know, right now it's when someone who's in a wheelchair needs to get on the bus and be secured safely on the bus, the driver has to help get up from their seat and go help them and block them in. And it takes, I think, up to 4 to 5 minutes to do that process. And we have recently upgraded, because of new technology, a new system called the Quantum system. And we've installed it on one bus, and we're going to have 6 installed by 2021, where essentially the mobility rider has much more independence, where they can get on the bus and get to their location and basically push a button, and some arms come out and lock on their chair. So they can have more independence about that, and it makes the whole bus move much faster because it's a much quicker process. So,
sounds good to me.
Yeah. So anyhow, and it's safer, and it's as well. So in any event, there's a video that we saw of a rider who was very pleased with it, and we saw how it actually works. So I'm excited for this.
Madam Chair, if I could add a little information and a request.
Who are you?
I am David Eatman with Transportation Transit City of Raleigh.
Sure.
Yes, David.
At this time, thank you, Ms. Renge, for providing that overview. Staff has found out about a COVID-19 research demonstration grant that's available through the Federal Transit Administration. There's approximately $10 million available nationwide. And we would like to put this particular element into that grant. This product, while it provides independence for the rider, it is a very safe system, and it also speeds up boarding. It also does not allow or does not require the driver to have close proximity to the wheelchair for securement. Many standard systems require the driver to put lap belts and securement belts from the chair to securement locations in the bus. So that's just another thing that this particular product provides a lot of benefit for the driver, for the rider, and for safety for all. So anyway, we would like to do that, and we would like for the board to authorize the chair to sign a letter of support for our grant application, if you would consider that, please.
Daniel saying, so moved.
Do we have a second? Do we need a motion on this?
It would be nice. That way we'll get you the letter to sign, hopefully in the next 48 hours.
Okay.
This is Nathan Spencer. I'll second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Nathan?
I will second that.
All right, so it's been moved and properly seconded that we, with our support, that you do go forward with the grant, the transit grant for COVID. That was the premise of it. I can't see you anymore, David, but that was the premise of it, correct? It was for transit for COVID?
That is correct.
All right, so it's been moved and properly seconded. We'll go ahead and take the vote. Nathan?
I vote aye.
Aye from Nathan. Karen Renge?
Aye.
Daniel Coleman?
Aye.
Morris Cook?
Aye.
Joshua Gill?
Aye.
And aye for Tallulah Omakaya as well.
Okay, so we'll get David Eatman, Transit City Raleigh. We will get you that letter for signature as quick as we can. The reason we wanted to get this to you quickly is the applications are due by November 2nd, so that would actually be before our next meeting. So we've got a pretty quick turnaround on this. We've got some work to do on the city side to make sure that we have appropriate matches, but it looks like we'll be able to move this forward. So thank you again.
No problem. Thank you. All right, I'm looking for my agenda and it keeps getting lost. All right, so I know that we added an item. Was that the item that we were adding to the end of the agenda, David?
No, that was actually a quick little board docs overview.
Okay, we did add an extra item to the end of the agenda that you wanted to discuss?
Yes, so our staff would like to transition all of our agenda materials to board docs, just like council. So if anyone is familiar with board docs, where they can go online and bring up the council agenda along with the supporting memos and other and presentations, if that's appropriate. You can do that for all council meetings, work sessions, as well as committee meetings. So we have been posting our agendas and supporting documents on board docs for a few months now, but we have not used it as a tool with the board. And we would propose that we start that in November. And certainly if anyone wants a standard PDF copy of the agenda, we can do that for a few months until we can make sure that everyone is accessing the board docs appropriately. But in the email that I sent out earlier this week on Tuesday, I did have a link to our board doc site for Raleigh Transit Authority. If we bring up board docs in the City of Raleigh's website, up at the top right-hand corner, you'll see it looks like a capitol or a building. And if you click on that, all of the different boards and commissions for the City of Raleigh are there. And you just go to Raleigh Transit Authority and click on Raleigh Transit Authority, and then you have the agendas arranged by date. And the committees are also within each month. So October would hold Raleigh Transit Authority meeting as well as the 3 committee meetings. So we will be loading 4 individual agendas per month along with supporting documentation to that platform. And you'll be able to have everything from prior minutes to, whatever you may need at that particular meeting.
Sounds good to me.
So we'll, if anyone has questions along the way, or if you need a one-on-one tutorial, please contact myself or Ms. Andrea Epstein, and we can arrange to walk anyone through that process that may not be familiar with it.
I have a question, David. Does this mean that CJ will no longer email us a link to the agenda, or will we get a link to the board doc site?
You will get a link to the board doc site when it is up and ready to view.
Okay. Thank you.
Daniel, I'm glad that you are supporting CJ having something to do. I was thinking about that the whole time David was talking about it.
Well, certainly CJ has a lot of support now, but she will be an integral part of this new process. So she's not off the hook by any stretch.
Great.
And she's certainly aware.
Are we voting on the usage of it? Do you need our vote on that, or are we good to just go?
That was just information. I didn't want to catch everyone off guard next month when we started referencing board docs and the new platform, and also I wanted to just tee up, if there are any questions from the body, please let myself or Andrea know, and we can set up a time to show everyone exactly how it works. It really is a great tool once you get used to it, and it doesn't require us to send a 200-page PDF. So it's great. So thank you very much.
I'm actually looking at it now. It's very efficient. Has all of our meeting and information, has the message from the governor about us meeting virtually, has our agenda, the documents. So it actually seems really cool. And then that way we don't have to go through our email for the agenda or have it downloaded and saved on our computer. We can just have the link and go to board docs. So I like the use of it.
Madam Chair, one thing that David Eatman Transit, City of Raleigh, one thing I did notice was that I was just looking at it myself, and I noticed that the June minutes are there. We had an amendment from our board member, Mr. Robert Owens. I'm not sure if he may not have sound or audio, so he may not be able to chime in for us. But I'm not sure if he's reviewed those. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We'd be happy to bring those back in November if he does not have audio.
And it also looks like, we can view the agenda from all our committee meetings, from our virtual meetings. So that's cool. All right, so it looks like we are at the end of our agenda with our notes, not with our notes, but our reports. Are there any extra remarks before we close out for the day? So if that is a no from everyone, I would like to call this meeting adjourned at 4:48 p.m. Thank you all for taking time to be so engaged and come to our meeting. Thank you for sharing the information. Thank you for chairing the committees. Thank you, Joshua, for stepping in and presenting for Michael. Thank you all for your engagement and all of the work that you do. I hope you all have a great rest of your week and rest of your month.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.